Ana Rashum, te esin berafin in susulardes. Mi gente ramp, lau katakut.
Public nafsen, kokorot efsen.
Nifsin kaish. Udiop gael. Turkun.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Fresh Cuts. This is Mike. Joining me, as always, it's Mr. Venom. What's up, Venom?
Greetings and salutations, Stone Age hunters. I'm doing pretty well, Mike. How the hell are you doing?
I'm doing well. I am happy to say there is no Super Bowl party hangover for me. Got home at a decent hour because the kids had school and I had work. So
Super Bowl?
Yep.
The superb owl. Yeah, yesterday was the superb owl.
Oh, that's what that was. Oh, okay. Yeah, I saw a few friends talking about it, and I was like, good for them.
Either that or the Usher concert, I guess, for the non-football fans.
Stop that. Oh, my God. Did anybody actually watch that? Jesus.
All right. Well, also with us is Don and Ellie. What's up, Don?
Ooga booga dooga dooga diga. What's going on, folks?
All right. Well, if that didn't indicate the movie we're talking about, so I think going into this episode, we mentioned that there was 2 theatrical releases. We picked Out of Darkness, and I think that I looked briefly ahead. I'm sure there's other VOD releases coming out, but for theatrical, I don't think there's anything new this coming week. So we have Lisa Frankenstein as the option for this coming up week. So we're probably leaning towards that. I don't know 100% if that's what we're doing, but that is there, and it was a theatrical release. So we'll just keep that in mind for now. But we are doing Out of Darkness tonight. So let me get that synopsis. In the old Stone Age, a disparate gang of early humans band together in search of a new land. But when they suspect a malevolent, mystical being is hunting them down, the clan are forced to confront a danger they never envisioned. All right. Venom. We're going to start with general thoughts. Kick us off with what you thought of Out of Darkness.
Okay, folks. Before I start talking about my general thoughts, I do want to caveat this with there is a very major reveal in the third act of this film that kind of may change the tone of the film for some people. Not all people, but some. So we're going to try to be as ambiguous as possible with the actual story, because there is a fairly major, spoiler that comes in the third act that, like I said, it drastically changed the way that I thought about this movie. And as I'm walking out of the theater, it drastically changed my overall thoughts on the movie. So with all that being said, I'm going to come in here and say, we finally watched a good movie in 2024. Big goddamn surprise. I'm so happy. Yeah, Out of Darkness. This is a great little film. Beautiful cinematography, great score, really, really good performances. I mean, there's a couple of performances in here that are kind of, just there, but there are a couple specifically from our main protagonist that just beautiful, beautiful performances. I like the language that they're speaking. They're obviously speaking a made-up language, so you are reading subtitles for the entirety of the film. Please be aware of that if you're planning on going to see that this week. Let's see. Beautiful direction. I thought the director did a really good job. Andrew Cumming, who was also credited as being one of the writers on the film, just a really, really good job with, like I said, set design, cinematography, score. Just the technical aspects of this film cannot be denied. I mean, they're almost flawless. You even get some nice upside down shots throughout the film to really drive home the point of like disorientation and things like that. So that was really cool. Yeah, overall, just it's just a really solid, well made film. Now, is it a good horror film? That's where the conversation has to begin. There's a couple of movies that Mike and Don and myself kind of remind us of this movie as we're watching it, and we're going to keep those to ourselves for now. Only because it would probably be some very obvious spoilers if we talk about other movies that this one reminds us of. But let's just say the tension throughout is really well done. I also do like the use of light and darkness in the movie, especially fog. There's one scene where there's really heavy fog, and it's the middle of the day, and that just adds to the tension of our group of early humans dealing with this antagonist that's stalking them in the woods. So again, just some really, really nice tension, some really, really nice we even get one there's not really going to be a lot of kills or gore, but we get one really gnarly kill in the movie that just comes out of nowhere. The movie is definitely not a gore fest, and it definitely doesn't lean into its violence at all, but there's just one kill that just shocks you out of nowhere. Like, what the hell am I looking at? Holy shit. And the victim's not even dead when we're looking at him at the point. So it just adds to the pain and torture of that scene. And that's really the only great kill in the film. There are multiple kills in the film, but most of them are just basic stabbings or bludgeoning, things like that. Nothing too horrific, if you will. But overall, like I said, I think everybody's opinion on this one is going to hinge on the third act. How you feel about the reveal, how you feel about the messaging of the film. And that's another problem that I had with the movie, is that by the time you're done watching it, there is a very specific message that this movie is trying to portray. The problem is, when you think back to earlier parts of the movie is like breaking its own rules. It's basically undermining its own message. And I know that sounds ambiguous as shit, and you guys have no fucking idea what I'm talking about if you haven't seen it yet. But that was one of my biggest issues with the movie, is this grand message that they wanted to leave us with, but the entirety of the movie is just constantly breaking that message and undermining their own morale that they're trying to portray here. So I still say this is a very, very watchable movie. I think most genre fans should go out and check this one out. Obviously, if you haven't seen it yet and you are mildly interested, you're not going to stick around for the spoiler walkthrough, and I would strongly recommend that you not, because, like I said, that reveal in the third act definitely your enjoyment of the film is going to hinge on that reveal. I think for some people it's going to work. I've actually already watched some reviews on YouTube where a couple of reviewers adore this film, absolutely love it. They love the reveal, they love the messaging, they love just about everything about it. But the majority of people, of the reviews that I'm seeing, are kind of a little bit closer to mine, where they like the movie, they recognize its technical prowess and all the things that it did right, but the movie just needed more. To appease horror fans specifically, it needed more. And I did go back and watch the trailer after watching the film, and yeah, it is, I don't want to say it's mismarketed necessarily, but like I said, that reveal is definitely gonna tinge the way you look at this film. Are you gonna be positive on it? Are you gonna be negative on it? Are you gonna be lukewarm on it? I myself am mildly lukewarm. I enjoyed the movie. I absolutely loved the first two acts. I really did. I was invested in this family. I liked just about all the characters in it, even the kind of the shitty ones that you're not supposed to like. Like they played their roles well, and I thought they did a really, really good job. So I was invested in this family. I wanted to see them make it and survive rather than, watching them get picked off one by one. But like I said, once we get to the end of the film, you're kind of left there like, really? That's the story that you guys are telling me? I mean, and like I said, just the morality play in the whole thing, the movie undermines it at every turn. So I'm just going to say that this is a very, very well made film, very well acted, well put together. As I've already said, the technical aspects are all second to none. It's just the story. It's really going to hinge on this story and how you feel about the third act. And if you're okay with it, if you're okay with the messaging and the reveal and everything else, then awesome. You're going to love this movie, and it's going to be one of your favorite movies of the year, at least as of right now. But if you're looking for like a gore-filled creature feature with lots of kills and a fun time, this is definitely not the movie for you. This one's definitely a more cerebral, slow burn, which is obviously going to alienate a lot of horror fans out there. But at least you've got your fair warning. Though I still say that if you're a fan of stuff like Saint Maud, and some of the like slower burn A24 horror films, I think you're going to be a fan of this one as well. I do count myself as a fan of this one. I'm just going to say I don't love it. I needed that third act to give me a little bit more. So I'll leave it at that for now.
All right, let's go to Dawn for your general thoughts on Out of Darkness.
Yeah, I'm pretty close, although I think Venom probably liked it just a tad bit more than me. I don't have much in the way of, adding new to the conversation, especially with our predetermined, agreed upon, limitations on spoiling things. Yeah, the technical qualities here are fantastic. The atmosphere is amazing. I love the forested shots, a lot of the cave work, and especially that fog enshrouded encounter in the middle of the day. That was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. There's again trying to piece my words together carefully here. There is a rather obvious and very confusing message at play here, which can't really go into much detail, but that is a really, really odd way of going about it. And I don't know if I personally would have gone with the way that it interferes with the film. It gives it a rather odd tone, especially after what has gone down before it. And it just gives it like a really weird aftertaste. Like, I don't know if I maybe need a different watch to, especially with how it goes on. Maybe give it a different watch with that knowledge at play, or if it's just, one of those cases where it's just employs a tactic that I don't necessarily enjoy, but I liked it enough to where it overcomes, my personal preference for the twisted hands. I would give it a second rewatch anyway. There's a lot to like here. Again, it's slow burn, but it's intriguing enough. There's incidental encounters, and that one spectacular kill is just fantastic. I think that's gonna that helps a lot, definitely. I don't know if it would be a spoiler to say that it kind of reminds you, not necessarily the general tone, but just that sequence in particular with the delimbing in Bone Tomahawk, where it just comes out of nowhere. It comes out of nowhere, and it's just like this really just gruesome, over the top sequence. That was kind of like the first one that kind of came to mind, even more so with Bone Tomahawk being a period setting, and this one being an especially even later period setting. But yeah, again, can't trying to mince my words here with the predetermined limitations here. I can't say it's a favorite. I can say that it's maybe top 3 of the year, just based on the crap that we've had to watch. Good time if you're into this kind of thing. Again, that slow burn kind of style is definitely very much at play. But yeah, that third act is just it's something. Yeah, you can't really go much further, but I think I will just leave it at that, just at the risk of not saying anything too out there, just to give Mike editing work. But yeah, if you enjoy this kind of thing, I would definitely recommend it. If you're curious about it, it's worth a watch. I can't say it would be a high priority. But yeah, if you're against what it is or you're not into these kinds of things, then this is definitely a free streaming thing towards the end of the year when you're trying to get caught up on everything, and you find it for free or something, and or drops on a platformer service or something. But yeah, if you're into this kind of thing or you're curious about it, it's definitely worth a watch. So like I said, at the risk of saying anything to give Mike more work, I guess that's it for me.
Appreciate it, Don. Yeah, so I think I am right along what you guys have already said, somewhere in between. I think it seems like we all enjoyed it to like varying degrees. We might separate once we get to the spoiler section and all the details. This movie is in some ways what it advertised, in some ways not, I guess. It's very minimalist in its approach. It's Stone Age in its setting. I particularly did like the sound design. I thought that was well done to set the kind of atmosphere. A lot of open landscape. There's a lot of just dealing with what it would like to live back then. Every day is kind of a fight for survival. I mean, puts into perspective, like, as hundreds of years, thousands of years even have gone by, modern technology and innovation has created a convenience that people from this time period would probably not even dream to think existed. And I agree, though, the third act it gets a little convoluted. I feel like so when we get to the spoiler section, we're gonna obviously talk about kind of like a spoiler reveal, but I think there's more to that in the third act that kind of makes it convoluted, probably with some of its messaging, some of the actions of the characters. So we'll get into that as well. But I think like leading up to that, I was pretty on board with it. I still think it's a pretty good movie for what it is. I just think there's certain elements that happen, towards the last part of the movie that will divide audiences. But other than that, pretty good, and it's not a lot of wasted time on screen. We don't get too many like side stories going on. It's a small cast out in the middle of nowhere, and if you like kind of like your minimalist approach, then this movie definitely gets that job done there. It's a lot of darkness and sounds that drive, I guess, the horror aspects of it. And I've seen it described as survivalist horror, so I guess that could be somewhat accurate in a way. But yeah, overall, I don't have much to add because it's a very simple story. Like, it's not, at least until the third act, which we'll get to. But I think leading up to that, it's like a kind of like a clear mission or what they're trying to do, and they don't add in like a ton of extra characters or subplots to like distract from our main group of characters. And like you said, there's an awesome kill in there. And then we'll have to save the rest for spoilers because I don't want to say the wrong thing and have to create editing for myself as Don was able to avoid doing. So I don't want to mess it up for me, my own self. So yeah, kind of brief on the general thoughts only because I agree with everything that's already been said, and I don't really need to just repeat it. I guess I'll just say I do think the immersion effect is really good here. Like I think it really, at least for me as a viewer, when I'm sitting in the theater, it really kind of does put you in that time period, or at least the feeling of it. I think they depict it well. And being as myself, not being a historian, there's nothing that I could personally like point to or pick out to say, hey, that's not accurate or anything like that. So to me, they depicted the Stone Age pretty well. So I'll leave it at that. Back to you, Venom.
I always wonder why cavemen, or maybe not cavemen, that might be a little bit going back a little too far, but like everybody has short hair in this movie. Like, how are they cutting their hair? Are they literally using like rocks and like sharpened rocks to cut their hair? It always like the younger brother character Greer. I mean, he almost has a fade. What the fuck is that? But again, a minor nitpick ultimately. It's something that I've always thought about. Like, whenever we see cavemen or early humans in film, how do they have short hair? Like, that doesn't make any sense unless they're eating their hair. I mean, I'm sure they had their own ways of keeping their hair short, but I don't know. This short though, where it's almost styled, maybe a little much.
Unless they found a way to like trim or cut their hair because they realized like using strands of their hair as like a binding agent or something was like
absolutely
useful. Yeah.
But I'm talking about Greer specifically. Like, what sharpened stone could you use to get your hair that short? I mean, it's shaved off completely, or like a crew cut or something. That's one thing, but dude literally got like a city fade. I'm just like, wait a minute, that's almost impossible. Anyway, nitpick, obviously. There really is a lot to like in this movie. Don, I completely forgot to mention atmosphere, but Don took care of that one, and he is 100% correct. Beautiful atmosphere here. You really feel the sense of dread throughout the movie. Another thing that I really like about the movie is that they give us all the character and story development right at the beginning with a campfire story. Rather than wasting the first, half hour, 40 minutes on character development and learning about everybody and learning their story and where they came from, blah, 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 we cover that completely in like a 3-minute campfire story right at the very beginning of the movie. So I do appreciate that. I mean, that keeps the movie under 90 minutes, and a movie this slow that's under 90 minutes is very appreciated because slow burns, depending on your state of mind, they could seem like they're twice as long as they actually are. So, but this one did a really good job of keeping up that tension, great atmosphere, just that sense of dread pretty much as soon as they land on that island, or I think it's an island, as soon as they, land on the new land that they've discovered. It's just sense of dread right from there all the way. They're starving. They have no food. They discover that the ground on their new home is barren. They can't grow anything. There's no animals to hunt. Like, that's the biggest one, is that there aren't little, like, for a whole region to not have animals, there's something crazy going on right there. That should almost instantly be a red flag. But at the same time, like I said, with their situation, leaving a land that was already too barren to live and grow crops and everything, they were forced to, go out into the world. And I was actually rather impressed with the boat that they build, even though you don't get close-ups of it. That one shot early on when they're sailing towards the new land, that boat's pretty gnarly. Like, that's a pretty good boat for 6 or 7 Homo erectus to put together. So not bad. I'll give him credit for that again. But yeah, like I said, there's a lot to like about this movie. The whole thing is going to hinge on the third act, which, we've already harped on it. And, I hate to make it a point of contention, but unfortunately it kind of has to be. like I said, for the first 2 acts of this movie, I was so on board, so invested in every member of this family. Even Adim, the shitty leader who basically, has the "it's my way or the highway" attitude. But he played the part well. He exuded that kind of leadership machismo that you kind of have to in these life or death situations. Back to Mike's point about survivalist horror, 100%. I mean, the whole movie is just this group trying to survive. First, trying to survive from the elements, trying to grow food, and one of them is pregnant. Like, none of us have actually mentioned that one of the members of the party is actually very pregnant. It looks like she's about to pop any day now. Like, that adds, a whole nother level of bullshit to traveling and going to new lands and everything. So, like I said, the dread was there, the tension was there, the atmosphere was there. It's just once you get the reveal, I think for most people, it's not going to be satisfying. There's definitely going to be a lot of people that are satisfied with the reveal, as I talked about with some of the YouTube reviews that I listened to. I just think that the majority of us, especially if we're going in expecting, a certain kind of creature feature or supernatural, survivalist film, you're going to be a little bit disappointed with that third act reveal. So let's, we've danced around it as much as I can. We've probably already given away more than we even intended to in the spoiler-free section. So that's going to be your final spoiler warning, folks. Moving forward, we are going to talk about the spoiler walkthrough of the film. Walkthrough is not going to be very long. Not a whole lot of different set pieces here to talk about, but just the overall encompassing story and that third act that, like I said, is going to be very contentious for many. So, Mike and Don, anything else to add before we go into it?
Not for me.
Yeah, let's get into it.
All right. So our movie opens up with a group of people. We see a boat nearing just like a country. You don't know if it's an island or, a peninsula, whatever the hell it is. But we see a boat nearing a beach. They get off the boat. They start to celebrate, like they're finally off the ocean, almost like they're castaways or something. Like they actually were on an even bigger boat that sank or something. But after that, that evening, they build a campfire, and one of the youngest boy in the group, the son of the leader, wants to hear a story. So the story that they end up telling is their story, the story of how they got to where they are now, which is kind of convenient for us. I don't know how compelling a story it is for the people there at the campfire, but at least for the audience, it's pretty cool. So like I said, we find out that these people were, from a whole nother region. For one reason or another, I don't remember the specific reason. I don't know if it was weather that kind of destroyed their lands, or just something happened that their land became barren and could no longer grow crops. They decided to set out onto the open ocean in their, boat and try to find a new land to, pick up stakes somewhere else and, try again somewhere. Our group consists of Adim. Adim is the leader. He is the alpha male, the absolute macho douchebag that cannot be denied. And you better not disagree with him or there's going to be issues. We've got Gear. Gear is the younger brother of Adim. So he is basically like a junior warrior. He is in charge of like protection and watching the campsites and things like that. He also goes on hunts with Adim whenever they do go hunting. Unfortunately, every time they go hunting, they catch nothing in this movie, so sadly. We have Heron, who is the youngest son, or the only son of Adim, the leader. Let's see, Bea. Now, Bea is the interesting character. She's basically our main protagonist of the film. She's actually a stray. They call her a stray in the film, so obviously she's an abandoned child or an orphan that they picked up, wherever. But she is now a member of the family, at the very least an honorary member of the family. Ava is the matriarch of the family. That is Adim's wife, and she is currently very pregnant, about to pop with their second child. And they're traveling, they're starving, and literally this poor woman's pregnant, trying to keep this fetus alive, but, blah, blah, blah. And then the final member of our group is Odal. And Odal is kind of the elder statesman of the group. He's the elder. He's, supposed to be the wise one. He's the one who knows about medicines and roots and foraging and things like that. I guess Ava, when she's not pregnant, she is also kind of an expert of foraging and things like that, too. They mentioned that in the film. So those are the 6 people that we're following in the film. And like I said, they're telling the story around the campfire about how they got there and how, they have a great leader with a great queen who's, they're looking for their new land so that they can build a new community with the remaining people that they have left. But then on the first day that they're there, Adim and Gear go hunting. Trying to find food, trying to find some animals, and they're not finding anything. There's nothing alive in this land that they're on right now. No birds, no rabbits, no nothing. But then what they do find is they end up finding either an elephant or a mastodon-like skeleton. And the skin is there too, but there's no flesh. The flesh is completely gone. And instantly, Gear and Adim know, okay, shit, there's something on this island that's basically hunting all the animals out of extinction. Adim tells Gear not to tell the rest of the group because, he doesn't want the group to get concerned or get fearful for their new land, blah, blah, blah. So they just decide, fuck it, we're not going to find anything to kill today. So let's just go back to the group. And then while they're there, that night, Gear gets taken. Basically, we hear screeches and moans and howls and different animalistic sounds throughout the woods at night. So the group knows. Adim and Gear are the only ones that know that there's something around. The rest of the group is just, generally, in fear. They're all, taking facing different directions to make sure that nothing sneaks up on them, blah, blah, blah. But then eventually Aaaaand gets taken, the son. And he's literally taken, it's not like he's taken in the middle of the night while people are sleeping. Everyone is awake. Everyone is alert because they hear the sounds of these animals around them. And then suddenly something drags Aaaaand away. Adim, his father, obviously rushes into the woods to go find him. The rest of the clan convinces them, no, don't go out there by yourself at night. You're not going to find them. Let's wait until the sun comes up. But Adim finally says, fuck it, I can't wait. It's my only son. And again, they revere sons so much more than daughters in this time period that Adim is willing to do anything to save his son. He goes out into the woods. Gear wants to go with them, but Adim forces him to stay because he's the only other warrior in the group to stay and protect the rest of the group at the site. Adim goes out looking for his son, does not find him. But then when we're back at the camp, we hear something attack Adim. We hear him, screaming and moaning and everything else. But nobody's rushing out to the woods to go help him because they're all terrified. Gear doesn't want to leave the group because he's leaving them completely unprotected. Eventually, Gear does say, fuck it, and he just runs into the woods, finds his brother, and drags his body back to the campsite. And then this is the kill that we were all talking about earlier, folks. When we see Adim, his jaw has been hyperextended off of his head. It's still hanging there by flesh. It hasn't been completely ripped off, but it's been completely hyperextended. So, it looks like his mouth is gigantic and his chin is halfway down his chest. You know what I mean? It is such a fucking gnarly looking effect. Like chef's kiss on this one. This effect was great. And on top of everything, Adim is still alive. His eyes are open, and you could see tears running down his eyes. Obviously, he can't talk. His jaw has been almost completely ripped off. The group tells Gear to put him out of his misery because he's in pain. He's also got some broken limbs and as well with the ripped off jaw. Gear, of course, being the brother of Adim, he's unable to do it. He can't bring himself to kill Adim. Bea, though, happily volunteers to kill Adim, or to put him out of his misery, though I think there was a little bit of pleasure on Bea's part, because earlier in the film, they showed Adim kind of attempt to sexually assault Bea. Don't forget, Bea is a stray, and she's very young. I forgot to mention, she's like teenage years. She's probably like 16, 17, 18, somewhere in that range. She's a teenager. And like I said, Adim, when he was away from his wife, kind of made a pass at her, basically saying, you're my girl, blah, blah, blah. And I mean, he even says, if Ava dies, you will definitely be my girl. He's literally already planning for his wife's death. So that tells you a little bit more about Adim, if you need it anymore. So like I said, Bea volunteers to put Adim out of his misery. She grabs her stone that's carved into the shape of a knife, and she buries it in his chest, killing him. Now, at this point, it's probably been days, if not weeks, since this group has eaten, and they're literally sitting there starving. Suddenly, Ava goes into almost like a seizure. And it's because the child inside of her is basically eating her alive, because since there's no sustenance inside of her, she's not eating normally. The baby is getting whatever nutrition out of Ava's body that he can get. Eventually, she ends up passing out. And that's when Bea's like, well, listen, we need to eat. And now we have something to eat. And everybody slowly looks up and turns their head towards Adim's dead body. Obviously, Adim is their leader. Nobody is happy about wanting to eat any of his flesh. His wife obviously doesn't want to. His brother doesn't want to. The elder doesn't want to because he says it's monstrous. Only monsters eat each other, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, this is before the days of cannibalism being acceptable in extreme circumstances. So finally, Bea's like, fuck it. I don't care what anybody says. I got to eat. She walks up to Adim's dead body and basically slices a hunk of flesh off of him. They cook it on the fire on a spit. They put it up on a stick. They roast it on the spit. Everyone is eating, but everyone is eating very reluctantly. Like, you see people putting bits of meat in their mouth and just chewing very slowly, maybe gagging every now and again when they realize, oh shit, what they're eating. And then the camera pans over to Bea, and she is just stuffing her face practically with a smile on her face. Oh man, I fucking loved it. Guilty pleasure, sorry. Eventually, the next morning, they decide, well, we can't just stay here, because if we stay here, we're basically just dead. We're just going to die. So they decide, they also are questioning why the monster never, the creature or creatures, it's never really established if it's one or multiple throughout the first 2 acts of the film. It's never really established, excuse me, Bea questions the next morning why the monster didn't come back and take someone else or try to take Adim's body. It's like, if this monsters are killing people for sustenance, why didn't they come back to take Adim or to take another member of the party, since they didn't get Adim's body? So that leaves you thinking a little bit. Now, throughout the film, we see that Bea has hit her first period, or I'm assuming it's her first period. It may just be a basic period. I don't know. But the way that she reacts when she first puts her hand down her pants and pulls a bloody finger out, she acts surprised. So I think the movie is implying that this is her first period. I might be wrong.
I think so, because I think there's some dialogue after that where the main guy's like, oh, now you're useful to me, or something.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's right. Adim does say that same conversation. Yep.
Yeah, there's the concern that the other chicks, or the baby he's having with the other one, might perish because of the harsh conditions. So it's basically, oh, you're the backup plan.
Exactly. Yep. So let's see, where are we here? So the next morning, the group decides we need to leave. Basically, the women left in the group, Bea and Ava, basically instantly assume that Gear is going to take over the leadership of the group because he's the younger brother of the former leader. But the elder, O'Dall, doesn't trust Gear. Basically says he's too young. He doesn't know anything. Where is he going to take us? Where's this guy going to lead us? Both the two women basically veto him, outvote him, and say, just get us out of here. They speak to Gear. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I keep saying Greer. It's Gear. Geirr. Gear. So eventually they leave under the leadership of Gear. He's leading them. We see a montage of them walking around the woods. It seems like they've spent the entire day walking around because it seems like the sun is about to come down. And then finally they come around a bend, and there's a Deem's dead body exactly where they left it. They literally walked in a circle, which of course makes Gear look bad and embarrasses him. Eventually O'Dall is like, well, fuck this. We tried it your way. We're going to go this way now. And they start to walk in a different direction. Eventually, upon walking in that direction, they ran into a fucking graveyard. Literally this area that's nothing but bones, nothing but animal bones. Rib cages, spinal columns, skulls. Just, it looks like an animal's pit, like a lion's pit or something, some carnivore. And they all freak out. They're like, oh shit, we got to get out of here. And as they're about to leave the area, they start to get stalked again, and they start to hear the noises that they were hearing the night before. And then there's an argument. O'Dall starts accusing Bea of being the reason why these creatures are attacking him, because she just got her period, so she's bleeding. And of course, animals in the wild can smell menstruation, which I guess, reminds them of blood, and they go on the hunt. Ava, the matriarch of the family, seems to agree with O'Dall, but not vehemently. She's just kind of, sort of agreeing. But then the conversation comes to a head, and it turns into a shoving match where O'Dall, Bea, and Gear. By the way, Bea and Gear do kind of have feelings for each other. It's kind of implied earlier in the film. It doesn't really factor into the story at all necessarily. I just figured I'd throw it out there. So anyway, eventually O'Dall attacks Bea, and Gear obviously goes to protect Bea. He gets shoved onto the ground, hits a rock on his head, and falls down. Or hits his head on a rock, excuse me. And basically he passes out for a couple of seconds. Ava then joins O'Dall in accusing Bea of being the reason why they're being attacked. So they grab her and they take her back to, the bone graveyard, if you will. They figure, we'll tie her up there and then call the creature, who O'Dall was calling a demon throughout the entire movie, the demon. And then we see him actually yelling out, demon, demon, here's your meal, come and get her, blah, blah, blah. Eventually, at this point, while they're trying to get the demon to show up to take Bea, Ava passes out. And unfortunately, she passes out for the last time. Ava does end up passing away during this scene. They haven't eaten. I mean, they did finally eat some meat the night before, but it looks like it was a little bit too late to save Ava and the child, her unborn child. So she ends up passing out and dying. And then O'Dall is still standing there. Oh, I forgot to mention, just before Ava dies, she grabs O'Dall because she realizes that O'Dall was wrong. Just before she dies, Ava realizes that O'Dall was wrong. So she actually grabs his leg, traps the leg, like kind of catches it under like a log or a rock, forcing O'Dall to fall down, which then breaks his leg. He has a compound fracture, so his bone is sticking out. And then after that, Ava passes out for the last time and passes away. And so at that point, like I said, Bea is tied up. Odal is now on the ground with a broken leg. Ava is dead on the ground, but Odal is still trying to contact the creature, calling it out. Demon, demon, come and get your meal. Eventually, what we see is something drag Ava's dead body out of there quickly, like really fast, so that you can't see what it was that dragged her out of there. Rather than Bea, who's still, awake and tied up in the pit. But for some reason, the creature took Ava. And which instantly makes Odal fearful, because now he's there he's an old man with a broken leg and a tied up girl. So he's definitely in danger. And then then Gear finally wakes up, realizes what's going on, gets back to the graveyard, the bone graveyard, realizes that Odal's already on the ground with a broken leg, so there's nothing that really needs to be done there. He does untie Bea, and they end up starting to leave. They hide because they figure that the creature is going to show up any minute to grab Odal. Old guy, broken leg, can't move. And eventually the creature does show up, and we finally, an hour plus into the film, finally get our first image of the creature. And this is where we see that it's not a four-legged large creature. It's actually bipedal. It's standing up on two legs, and it's got like a weird mask on it, almost like a handmade, like potato sack type mask, so that you can't see what it is. Obviously the music is swelling. The tension is building. It seems like the creature is about to attack Gear, but then Bea comes out of nowhere, hits the creature in the head with a rock, and a mask falls off. Yes, my friends, here is our fucking third act reveal. The mask falls off, and what is underneath the mask? A fucking Neanderthal. Yes, it's another human, another early human, but this one's even more underdeveloped than the group that we've been following. They've got the big brow, the big bony brow, the little eyes, the little ears. Just total Neanderthals. So this entire time, my friends, it is not a creature stalking our group of, settlers. It's a rival group of humans who were just going after strangers that invaded their land, if you will. So, and this part also gets me. Gear and Bea are literally standing right there next to the creature, and it's not even an adult. It's like a child or a teenager. It's like a small Neanderthal. It's definitely not full grown. Rather than just jumping on it and killing it or whatever, they literally let it go. It just runs away into the mountains, and then they give chase. They follow it into the mountains. They end up finding a passage of caves where these Neanderthals are actually living, and Bea, in her infinite wisdom, says, we got to go in there and finish this. I'm screaming, how the fuck do you know how many of them are there? There could be a fucking community of them in there, plan, for God's sakes. But no, Bea just goes in, they're going through this labyrinth of cave passages. Eventually Bea gets attacked by a full-grown Neanderthal this time. A very full-grown Neanderthal. This is a big fucking gorilla of a man. They get into a squabble, they get into a fight back and forth. Eventually Bea is able to get the upper hand, and she stabs the Neanderthal with her spear. She ends up leaving the spear in the Neanderthal and continuing her search through the cave passageways, which kind of freaks me out. Eventually, Gear does catch up to her. He ends up finding the body of the Neanderthal that she killed, or that she attacked, and he's not dead. He's laying on the ground. Her spear is still stuck in his neck, but he's on the ground moaning, not completely dead. Finally, Greer comes over, grabs the spear, stabs him a couple of more times, and kills him. As he does this, he hears Bea screaming. And the reason that Bea is screaming is, we cut back to her. She gets to another part of the cave passage where she sees a pile of animal skins, and there's something moving underneath the pile. So she grabs her knife in preparation of killing whatever is underneath the pile of animal skins. She slowly approaches the pile, pulls the pile apart so that she can see what's under there. And lo and behold, it's Heron. It's Adim's son, the very first victim of this group, the very first one that got taken. He's still alive and in good health. He's not a prisoner. He's not tied up. It's almost like the Neanderthals just decided to adopt him. But just as Bea finds Heron, another Neanderthal walks into the cave and has like a bludgeon in his hand, like some kind of cudgel, the bludgeoning mallet type weapon. And you can see that he's about to attack Bea. Bea is standing in front of Heron trying to protect him, thinking that, the Neanderthals wants to kill both of them. And then just as at that moment, as the Neanderthal is about to attack Bea, Gear shows up, and he shows up right behind the Neanderthal, looks around the Neanderthal, sees Bea and Heron. Now, mind you, they thought Heron was dead. They thought he'd been dead for days at this point, and here he is alive and in good health. But at the exact moment that Gear realizes that that's Heron standing behind Bea, the Neanderthal unceremoniously bashes his fucking head in. And then after Gear falls down, the Neanderthal follows up with like 6 or 7 double taps, just bashing his head open. Unfortunately, we don't get to see it. We get kind of the off-screen version of it. But a very, very violent kill that unfortunately we don't get to see. So at that point, while the Neanderthal is killing Gear, Bea finds a torch. Obviously all throughout the cave systems, there's different torches set up so they can see. She grabs a torch and she throws it on the pile of animal skins. And then she sees like a path with some sunlight coming through it, like a long window type thing, a small little cave passage. She and Gear start climbing out. And at this point, the fire is fully raging. The cave system's on fire. There's smoke bellowing out of all the openings of the cave. Eventually, Heron gets outside first, crawling through this little, long window, if you will. He gets out of the cave system. He's fine. Then Bea gets out of the cave system, and she's fine. And then as soon as Bea gets out, a female Neanderthal pops her head out. And she starts screaming because she's stuck. She ends up getting stuck. And like I said, the fire is catching up to her behind her. So she starts speaking in her language. She starts saying something in her language to Bea, but Bea doesn't understand, obviously. Bea speaks her language. They speak 2 very different languages. Suddenly, Heron tries to help the Neanderthal woman. He literally is grabbing her arms and trying to pull her out of the cave entrance so that she can escape the fire as well. Just as Heron is about to pull her out, Bea comes with a boulder, a rock, and just bashes the shit out of the Neanderthal woman, killing her instantly right there. As soon as she does this, Heron starts getting mad at her. Why would you do that? Why would you kill her? They were helping me. They were treating me well. And this is like another part of the reveal, if you will. Heron lets Bea know that they were feeding him. They were taking care of him. I don't understand why Heron is still okay with this. Obviously, he was a little kid and he was starving with the group of people he was with. He ends up getting kidnapped by a group of people who actually have food, and apparently Heron got Stockholm Syndrome, and suddenly he wants to be a Neanderthal. And then the movie basically ends there with, like, basically Bea and Heron take over the cave system and they start they're starting from scratch. They're not brother and sister, so they should be able to safely repopulate their community. Even though Heron's like 12 years old and Bea's maybe 15, 16, I don't know. I don't know what age girls get their periods. So sorry. And that's pretty much it. And like I said, the movie leaves us with messaging something along the lines of we're all people. You know, even though we may look different, we're all people and we should all be able to be peaceful. The problem is the movie constantly undermines its message. Like, why would they kidnap Heron if they were friendly? Like the very first thing to happen, the catalyst for all this was Heron getting kidnapped. Like literally, and like I said earlier, it's not like it was the middle of the night. It's not like Heron got lost in the woods and they saved him. They literally kidnapped him from his family and then just started treating him well. But they still kill Adim. They very violently kill Adim, his father. They kill Gear, Heron's uncle, right fucking in front of him. And it's unceremonious. Like I said, it's not like there was a fight. Literally, the Neanderthal turned around and just started bashing Gear's head in. There was no attempt at peace, no attempt at understanding, nothing. So this movie's messaging doesn't mean anything. You know, it's like they want us to walk away from this movie with this grand message of we're all people, we're all the same, even though we don't look the same. We all want peace and happiness and blah, blah, blah. Well, then why the fuck did the Neanderthals practically decimate this group? They kidnap Heron. They kill Adim. They take Ava's dead body. Oh, by the way, the reason they took Ava's dead body was to honor her. They actually put her up on an altar in their cave system. So, you know, Heron's mom, who's still very pregnant, her dead body basically is adorned with like nice animal skins and things, and she's up on an altar. But again, that doesn't make any fucking sense. Why did they steal the body of a dead pregnant woman just to honor her and then kill Adim, Gear, and Odal? Like all the men in the group they kill, all the women in the group they honor, and then Heron they kidnapped. So this is what I mean about this movie. This messaging is incredibly muddy. I don't think this movie understands how to get a message across. You can't have a group of Neanderthals pick off a group of Homo erectus one by one and then say, oh, they didn't intend to murder you. They wanted peace. No, fuck you. They kidnapped my son and then they kill our leader. Fuck you. There was no attempt at peace, no attempt at negotiation, no attempt at anything. So, yeah, this movie undermines its own message, and that's its ultimate crime. Still a great movie, still a lot of positives about the film. But like I said, that third act, the reveal, and then the way that the movie undermines its own message, I think are the two biggest issues that I have with the film. So there it is, folks. That is Homo erectus versus Neanderthals, 2024.
All right. So yeah, obviously, what the reveal kind of reminded me of an aspect of a different movie. Do you remember M. Night's The Village?
Oh, I fucking hate that movie. I fucking hate that movie with a passion.
Because before the big twist, I guess at the very end where we find out like what's actually going on, they kind of played with the same thing, like, oh, there's a creature out in the woods, and it's like, oh, actually they were just using that to scare him, and it's not really that at all. As far as the messaging at the end, now I'm trying to like think if I like missed some dialogue.
No. There's no. It's an implied message. There is no dialogue, no text, no anything. It's implied.
The implied messaging I kind of took from the ending, it wasn't so much that they were trying to say, oh, look, we're all the same, we're just people. I thought, and like I said, this is just an interpretation because I don't know for sure. Mine was, what I took from it was they were acknowledging that, like, oh, look, we're just another fucking failure of a species because we just killed off each other for no good reason. And okay, I guess now as the new the new version of our species, as like evolution is going on, I guess we can try to start over and do better like going forward, because we are all just a bunch of fuck ups. That's what I took from it. Which is not totally.
We are all fuck ups though.
Well, no, yeah, exactly. But
there's no correcting that.
That's what I took from it, is like from the dawn. I think they were almost trying to say from the dawn of mankind, all we do is like go to war with each other,
right.
kill each
We're
other.
Distrustful.
Yeah, we're distrustful. We look out for ourselves, not others, by nature. And so at the end of the movie, it was like, well, this this era of mankind failed. Maybe the Homo erectus will get it right. But then, like, as history shows, we kind of never get it right as mankind.
Nope.
So it's not a totally different message from how you interpret it, just slightly a little different. But that was my take on the ending. What about you, Don?
Women are not to be trusted. No, I agree. I think the idea of, we want peace, but yet our first instinct is to mistrust outsiders. I think it's fine the way it comes about, where the Neanderthals are the ones that are trying to be trusting, but yeah, then they go about and they try to kill everybody. It's like, that doesn't make any sense. And then you see at the very end, the Neanderthal woman is trying to get out, and Heron is the one trying to help her. And then the other girl just bashes her head in and kills her. Like, why would you need to do that if the fire is going to kill her anyway? Just drag him away and just let her burn.
Yeah, I kind of feel like my main issue with all that unfolds in the third act, it just feels like a convoluted way to say it, because I think what the director and writer were maybe going for is that in this battle between Homo erectus and Neanderthal era of humans, it's not necessarily that one is the good side and one's the good version of mankind and one's the bad. I think it's kind of to Venom's point. It's like they're all mankind, but we all just have the same gene to like fuck everything up and like just be distrusting of outsiders, like Don said, skeptical. Like neither faction in the movie ever stopped to like really assess or like reach out to be like, hey, what's going on? It's really just immediate, like, oh look, there's other unfamiliar people, must kill to preserve ourselves. Like that's the natural first instinct of mankind, and I guess you can make the argument that like from the Stone Age to current times, it's like we keep repeating the same damn thing, regardless of how like more evolved we feel we are than like previous iterations of mankind, that we keep doing the same thing over and over.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but if you're gonna do that, then the behavior should be pretty consistent. The Neanderthal should be considered peaceful and wanting to accept them into their tribe, and the Homo erectus tribe should be the violent, brutal bashers. And yet both sides display each quality. You should have the behavior be set up to where one side is decidedly good, and the Homo erectus should be very obviously just barbaric and, oh well, they did this, we have to get them. It doesn't matter if they're intending for peace. Even if they misconstrue everything, it should still be set up to where everything that they do is set for one side, but yet both sides display both qualities. So it doesn't even that point doesn't really matter.
Yep. The messaging is muddy. That's the ultimate takeaway from this one. Just a lot of muddy messaging. Well.
Yeah. I did kind of like. Now that I think of it and looking back, I did kind of like the makeup, like because they were. I like the distinction between both groups. How like they're both primitive in a way compared to like modern man, but like you can still see the differences between those two, and they made it a point to make like of course the Neanderthals look a little more like devolved, or I don't even know what the right term is, but primitive, ape-like. Yeah. So I thought that was cool, and I like it because through modern time you always kind of have like the sort of like the enlightened versus the no, we can't change from what we are now. Like, you see those battles all throughout history, and it usually never has good results.
Yep.
But overall, like, even with the criticism said, like, I still enjoyed the movie. It's probably at least for me, probably the best 2024 release easily that I've seen so far, because I haven't seen much outside of what we've done for the show, to be honest. So I'm at a disadvantage, I guess.
My favorite oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just gonna say I just barely hit double digits for the year. I'm actually a little behind on my movie watching.
I was gonna say, not truly horror, but my favorite of the year so far is a film called The Seeding.
Nice.
Oh, I know of it. I just haven't seen it yet, but I want to watch it.
Yeah, it's really good. Not truly horror. It's, horror adjacent, especially with where it goes in the final act. But if you're wondering, that is my favorite of the year. So my true general favorite. It feels kind of weird to say this. It's a crappy creature feature called the Wendigo, and instead of the WEND spelling, it's a WIND spelling.
Stupid.
Yeah.
I did finally see Scalper, and I did enjoy it. So, for whatever that's worth.
Like I said, you saw Nightcrawler too?
Yeah, I watched them both back to back.
Makes much more sense, huh?
Exactly. Yeah, the Scalper by itself, it would have been rough.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at.
Yep. But yeah, sadly, 2024 is starting out with a fizzle.
Well, all right. Well, we are leaving the Stone Age behind, back to present time. And like I said, probably I would bet on Lisa Frankenstein being the next release, but we'll since we won't be, since we have a week till we record, I'll still say we can see what's coming up on VOD. I don't think, at least not wide release, there's any horror coming out. So Lisa Frankenstein as of now leading candidate, but we'll keep an eye on VOD. We got a good week to decide. So with that said, before we get out of here, let's find out what else there's to listen to from us. So Venom, what do we got? There's one that's been a long time coming. So Venom, go ahead and announce that one.
All right, the cursed episode of No More Room in Hell, number, what was it, 57? Mike?
Yes,
he said that a couple times, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so episode 57 is finally in the can after an almost, oh no, not even almost, a 3-month break. Literally, our last episode was our last full episode was in our October, not counting the couple of commentaries that we did in October and December. But yes, finally, an episode of the main show, and it is a return to Hammer horror. Once again, we are looking at Hammer horror films. This time around, it was Derek's picks, and with that, we looked at The Gorgon and Quatermass and The Pit. One of these was a first-time watch for me. The other one is an old favorite, and I think we all had a really good time with the movie, so check that out. Obviously, all the other segments that you're used to, the burning question, what we've been watching, and horror news are all represented as well. So yeah, I know it took a long time. Very sorry, folks, but unfortunately, the end of 2023 and beginning of 2024 have been kicking my ass. So, but thankfully, we're back. Hopefully, we can get back into a normal cadence of releasing episodes again. We're already talking about what our next episode is going to be, so look out for that one. And then on Creature Comforts, our latest episode is episode 23, where we looked at 1986's Rawhead Rex, the second film screenwritten by Clive Barker. And if you read the short story that this movie is based on, Clive Barker's sexuality is very out in the open. If there was ever a question about Clive Barker's sexuality, read the short story of Rawhead Rex, which is available in Books of Blood Volume 3. And that's pretty much it for me, I think. I don't have any guest spots coming up anytime soon, but like I said, life is starting to stabilize again, so you'll be getting more shows from all of the No More Room in Hell family in 2024. So that's it for me, folks.
All right, I'll throw it over to Don. What do you got?
Yeah. Episode 57 of the main show was a lot of fun. Definitely look forward to that one. Creature Comforts, we're probably even gonna make plans to get the next episode out sooner rather than later. Surprised, yeah, surprised you didn't mention that one either. As there are tentative plans. You know how the saying goes with us. For a new episode to be recorded sooner than later. I shall keep everything under wraps just because I know the curse of the show, and it'd probably be easier to announce it when it's completed rather than announce it for 3 weeks and then we'll see how it goes. But yeah, be on the lookout for those in the coming weeks. As for my show, the Horror Countdown, I have my latest episode, which is a look at the top 10 public domain films, which is a lot of fun. And yes, to give a slight spoiler, although really this should not be a spoiler at all, both me and the guest pretty much looked at it as a challenge of, okay, Night of the Living Dead, and then what's 2 through 10? So... yeah, no real spoilers there. Both of us are, we were both seasoned horror fans, and we both looked at it at the exact same way. So, that should be a lot of fun. Some interesting topics. We picked some obscure films, but it was a fun time. So definitely be on the lookout for that. I can also reveal that one of my upcoming episodes is going to be coming out sooner rather than later. And this is a look. I joined a show called Would You Die, which is a upcoming episode of mine. Just be on the lookout for that one. But this was a general conversation on the Big G. This is a full-on Godzilla discussion. Pretty much any and every topic, all of the franchises, all of the films, eras, different forms of media, all of that fun stuff. So. That one should be out next week, so be on the lookout for that one. If you haven't gotten your fill of me discussing Godzilla -1, there's a full-on discussion about this one and all the others in the franchise coming soon. So, yeah, I will give links and reveals when that's ready. But, yeah, beyond that, that's pretty much all that I can reveal at this current time. Like I said, there's still... I think there's 2 more that are supposed to be coming soon, but I can't really reveal those as of yet just because I don't know when they're coming out. But that is the one that I can reveal and is the last one that I have. So that's it for me.
All right. As far as I go, nothing much new. Just No More Room in Hell 57, as was already mentioned. It'll probably be released within a couple of days of this episode of Fresh Cuts being released, so look for that this week. And then, other than that, yeah, in the next episode, I think the rotation goes back as far as No More Room in Hell, the main show, my pick, so I got to figure out what we're doing. And I think that's it. Maybe we'll try to get an episode of Crystal Lake Gift Shop book too, because yeah, we're all ready for that one as well. And I don't know, we're still relatively early in 2024, so who knows what the rest of the year holds for us and podcasting. But with
lots of bad movies.
Yeah. Unfortunately, yeah. But,
I mean, I've seen the calendar, so it doesn't look promising.
Well, with that said, thanks everyone for listening. We will be back in about a week with another episode of Fresh Cuts. Let's say bye to our listeners.
Later.
Adios, my friends. If a new group of cavemen appear on your island and you want to find out if they're friendly, give them a fruit basket. That's a lot easier than kidnapping their younger son. I don't know.
Or try both. Just see how it goes.
Yeah, mankind's gonna mankind. What can we do about it except continue to be mankind? Peace.
I disagree with you. I'm gonna kill you.
Should have just left it as mankind gonna mankind, Mike. I think that was a better
mankind
way of
gonna mankind.